welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. All righty, welcome back. Super glad that you are taking the time to join us here at Kim Talks Resilience. If you've listened to a few of the episodes, you know that I'm all about, you have to make a choice. You choose where you go. And to choose nothing means you get nothing, right? And so, having our next guest on the show is very cool because it's really choosing how you're going to direct your life. And we're also going to be, I'm just going to give you a heads up. I am going to ask, how do you grow your Instagram? How do you grow your media? Because she's done such a phenomenal job on this. And there's got to be something we can pick up because I'm telling you, it's social media can be a real challenge for a lot of people who are doing a digital based business. So our next guest is Samantha Kozuch. I love that last name, Kozuch. Samantha is a visionary creator of the Manuscripting Journal, the disruptive viral brand known for its manifestation life design journal and cult following on social media. Through her dynamic online workshops and speaking engagements, Samantha has inspired audiences around the world, sharing practical tools and practices to align thoughts, intentions, and actions for manifesting success. Her work has disrupted the industry with the manifesting. I love that. It's not scripting, it's man is scripting. Manuscripting. I keep saying manifesting. I apologize. Manuscripting Journal. The Manuscripting Journal became a viral sensation, captivating the hearts of countless followers. Now, as the founder of the Manuscripting Journal, a multi-million-dollar company, this is something we're going to ask about because, as you guys know, if you've listened to any of my previous shows, we know that only 9% of startup companies, 9%, actually crack that seven figures. So this is pretty huge. Samantha has taken the manifestation and personal development industry by storm, earning widespread recognition for her innovative approach to empowering individuals to script their dreams to reality. I just like to script their dreams to reality. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You know what, you hit on several things that I constantly am talking about. So I have a love-hate relationship with social media, as I think most people do. And that multi-million dollar, just to crack seven figures, like I said, that the percentage is 9%.
And
9% of all startups actually crack seven figures.
And I didn't even know that fact. And just by hearing you say that, I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize we had done something so big because honestly, in my world and all the entrepreneurs that I run with, they're all $1 million companies. So as we were like setting those goals to hit 1 million, I was just like, oh, I'm like the only one that hasn't done it yet. So it's just so interesting to get this reflection back. Like, whoa, like there isn't many companies that actually hit that mark. So thank you for that.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we tend to minimize our successes, so we can't embrace them. And I think that's really so big shout out because that's huge. So let's start with a little bit of who is Samantha?
Who is Samantha? Well, I just recently moved to Austin, Texas. I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years now. I started my entrepreneurship journey towards the end of college. I was supposed to go to med school in my senior year. I was all like, oh my gosh, this isn't for me anymore. And at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do because I'd focused, so many years on focusing on going to med school, like doing something else wasn't even an option. And I just figured out, you know what? I want to work for myself. I don't want to go get a corporate job. And I fell into entrepreneurship through modeling, acting, started dabbling in network marketing in my early 20s, which was a great, starting point for entrepreneurship. And then from there, I was a social media influencer, turned social media and online business coach. And now here we are today with the Manuscripting Journal. So it's been quite the journey.
I think it's interesting that you were a med student, because you're working in a neuroscience space when you're talking about manifestation and kind of the rewiring. Because I know that by nature, human beings, we're looking for stuff that's going to eat us. Like we're still working with caveman brains, right? So,
Yeah,
so when we think about that, the manifestation is really putting faith in and beyond yourself, right?
exactly.
Making
Mhm.
sure you're putting the foundational steps in place so that it can come to fruition.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So let's talk about what you do.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your approach to this. Because I know there's some people, manifestation can get a bad rap.
Absolutely. That's the first thing I was going to say. People
Yeah.
think it's very spiritual or woo woo or witchy or magic or, something like that. But yeah, behind that is no, it's not. It's actual science because we literally, whether you believe in manifestation or not, you're manifesting every second of every day. Because when it comes to manifestation, like for example, your current reality, that is a manifestation of your thoughts, actions, feelings, emotions, a compilation of everything that you've done in your life up until today. Like this is the result. So it's funny when people say, oh, manifestation doesn't work, or, because, yeah, unfortunately, with social media, I think, especially over the last 3, 4-ish years, I don't know if it was because of the pandemic and everyone started tuning in more to social media or what, but all these different like manifestation practices of like writing down your goals a million times or saying this 10 times a day, different times a day, and doing this ritual and that ritual, which, yes, those all can work to a sense because it all comes back to what you're programming your brain with throughout the day. But the scientific fact of it is we are all made up of atoms, molecules. We're a frequency, and not just us as humans, every single physical object. We all vibrate at a certain frequency. That's science. That's not some made up thing. And of course, when you start paying attention to all the things that you think about, how you feel, how you behave, things you take action on, of course, like whatever it is that you're doing in that time and space, you're going to manifest those certain things that you're focusing on and bring them to fruition.
So manifestation I'm going to guess. So there is the Baden Meinhof
Mhm.
principle where, I go and buy a car and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I see the same car everywhere. It's somewhat the same concept. If I adopt this policy in, then I start seeing it everywhere. Is that correct on that? Because
Yeah,
I've seen stuff where some people sit there and all they do is like, I'm going to manifest this, and then they don't do anything.
right.
I'm going to manifest a digital company that will be a seven-figure digital company, but I don't learn the digital technology. I don't align with people who are in the seven-figure space, right? So how can you manifest if you don't adopt it first?
Yeah. Well, with whatever it is that you're manifesting, right? It's getting first that clarity on exactly what it is that you want, right? So setting those goals, right? And then from there, it's actually being in alignment with those things. For example, if you're doing something just for the money, if you're doing something just for the fame, if you're doing something, for any of those like kind of like external reasons, you may have success, but it will maybe leave as fast as it came to you, or you're going to get burnt out in with it because that wasn't initially like your purpose for this human life. And I think for most people, they are so disconnected from their actual purpose, right? Because that's what I believe. You are in this life right now, you're in this reality. You came here with some sort of gift. It doesn't matter what you believe in, but you have things within you that nobody else has. But unfortunately, what starts to happen is, from childbirth, basically, as you're raised, you're brought up by, your parents, your society, you've been programmed to be a certain way, right? Like, what is the typical trajectory for a person? You go to school, you go to college, you get married, you have babies, you get the corporate career. Most likely revolves a lot. I can say this a lot around debt. and you're just kind of on this hamster wheel of just kind of going and doing what you're quote unquote supposed to do, right? And that's why so many people experience, the burnout, the depression, the unhappy with life, you're unhealthy, all of these things. And that's pretty much accumulation, because what you're doing every single day, you're not living in your purpose. You're not doing what excites you. You're not doing the things that fulfill you. So bringing that back to manifestation and how to even do that. And you can even replace that word like goal setting, creating your dream life, creating your reality, going after your dreams, however it excites you, right? It's getting that clarity first on, okay, removing everything from what reality is. What would your dream life actually want to be? What would you want to be doing every single day? And then from that step, it's okay, well, look at my life right now. What is actually holding me back from those things? And the holding back part could be your own self-confidence, could be self-worth. It could be experiences or trauma that has happened to you in the past that is now in your subconscious mind that is holding you back. Like, oh my gosh, I can't do that because X, Y, and Z happened, or X person told me this, or this happened to me, and there's no way I could ever do that, right? So going and doing that inner deep work and healing, and a word that people call is like that shadow work stuff, right? Of seeing what is that that's holding us back. And then from which is, I think, the one thing, the biggest part of quote unquote like manifesting that people skip because that's uncomfortable. It's not
Yep.
fun. It's doing all that stuff. And then from there, you have your goals now. You've cleared out all the baggage that's been holding you back. And now it's creating that action plan. Because yes, a lot of people think they can just write down their goals or create that vision board, or, just say it out loud in the mirror one time of all the things that they want. And they sit back, cross their arms, and are like, okay, well, where is it? But we
Yeah.
have to take action on it, right? Like we have to take action. Otherwise, it's
It's that
not.
whole short term. It's
Yeah.
that whole short term. People, um, they want short term action for long term
Yes.
gain, but that's not how it works. It's long term action, and then you work to sustainable gain, right? And I totally agree. A lot of times when stuff comes easy, it also goes easy.
Mhm.
You see this, in industries like real estate. You'll see somebody come online, they do really good 3-4 years, and then they're done, they're out, right? And they went in because they wanted to make money. It's not that they wanted to serve a community
Right.
or create awareness or volunteer on boards or any of that. They literally came in for the purpose of making money off of other people, right?
Yes.
So I think it's also understanding the core of that, that servant leadership. What is the core of what you're doing? And are you willing to fill that core, the persons that are actually benefiting from what you're doing, versus is it just a one way? You're just wanting that money.
Exactly. Mhm.
Let,
Exactly.
let's talk about what I'd love from you is, so you have the journal.
Mhm.
Let's, what are journaling obviously is part, like being able to actually put out there what you want. What are three things, three simplistic things that people can adopt on a daily to help start moving and shifting their mindset to where they're more open and receptive?
Mhm. First one, biggest one, I think it's no stranger to anyone, and that is gratitude. Like starting the first thing, whether you're saying it, whether you're writing it down, is gratitude. I'm so happy and grateful for X, Y, and Z. That's the fastest and quickest way to just get into your heart, right? And be having that gratitude is thanking for what you already have. Second one would be is thinking about what that goal is that you want. And it doesn't have to be, getting a huge mansion or money or a car, but like really like what is that next big goal that you want to hit? And write it down. Writing it down is always more powerful because you can read it, it processes more further in your subconscious mind. And then after that is what is that next action step that you can take on that today? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but literally today. So not having some big project, well, I need to go launch a website. No, like what is that thing today? It's okay, maybe it's signing up to get a platform for my website, right? Like breaking those bigger goals down into those little bitty steps. So I think if you do those three things every single day, that's going to help move the needle for you.
I totally agree. And remember, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? PETA, if you're out there with PETA, please do not. I'm not advocating to eat elephants. It's just a saying, folks. Just a saying. I totally agree. The gratitude thing is, and I love the fact that you said a mansion with the goals.
Mhm.
I feel like our definition of success in North America has been hijacked. And people no longer are seen as successful if their goal is as basic as
Mhm.
having four walls and healthy children, or being healthy themselves, right? There, that everybody now, it's like, well, that's not really a goal. But the truth is we have millions of people who cannot even get a property now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The financial. So what do you say to people when they're talking about their, and I know you've heard this because I've heard this.
Mhm.
Well, I know it's not really that big of a deal, and I probably should think of something bigger, but I really just want this. So they're almost excusing or downplaying what their goal is.
Right.
What do you say to people around that? Because
Oh my God.
I, yeah, is it, are you hearing this also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Perfect. And to me, when I hear that, I'm like, well, one, do you really want it? Because I mean, if whatever higher power you believe in, right? It, again, doesn't matter. We all know something larger is at play, right, with reality. But I just always say, treat your goal, like someone that you are in a loving relationship, right, with. So if that person is your goal and they heard you say, well, I don't know, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but yeah, this is kind of what I want. Would that person want you? No, it doesn't sound like it, right? It doesn't, you're not excited about it. It doesn't sound like you're confident in it. It doesn't sound like you really want that. And you almost sound guilty for it. So those are all levels of emotion that carry a frequency, which is a more lower energy frequency. And that's going to repel the attraction to that thing that you want. So I think first off, it's going back a few steps. It's like, hey, where's your constant confidence and self-worth at with this thing? Because no matter what your goal is, like if you truly desire and want something, like you have to have that worthiness of like, oh yeah, I deserve this. I'm confident that I will have this. But if you have this kind of, it almost sounds like a wishy-washy attitude towards it, like, yeah, I kind of want it, but it's almost like it's not a big deal if I don't get it, but this is kind of what I want. Like if you're having this wishy-washy attitude with your goals are going to be wishy-washy with you. And I think that's why a lot of people are on this roller coaster of life as well, because they'll set a goal and they'll start working towards it. It's not happening fast enough for them, so then they're like, oh, you know what, forget it, I'm going to go try something else, or I don't really want that anymore, I'm going to go do this instead, right? And then they have to go try that thing. And it's kind of this cycle of this roller coaster of this up and down and focus and not focused and wanting, but then not wanting. It's kind of a mess. So at the end of the day, with anything like that, it's like, no, like if you really want that thing to happen for you, like you have to believe it and also believe it as if it is already done for you. So that's kind of my advice to those
And
that kind of come in
and
like that.
value it.
Yeah.
Value it. Yeah. I think especially here in North America, we do forget how fortunate we are because we're comparing ourselves, and I'm not bashing on the Kardashians, so don't write me a letter about this either, please. I've had a few letters. but but that shouldn't be the baseline of a life well lived.
Mhm.
That's their
Yeah.
baseline, right? I had an interesting conversation. I am so blessed. I have three amazing kids who are all totally different. And my youngest came to me, and she's very quiet. She can work a room because she grew up with me in real estate. She knows how to navigate groups and things like that, but her preference is quiet, sit in the dark, and work on a computer. That's her preference.
Love that.
And she came to me, she goes, Mom, she's going to go back to school. She goes, I just want a job. I don't want to be an entrepreneur like you and Dad. Is that okay? That's like, my only thing I want is you to be happy. That's the only thing I want. And if that's what makes you happy, I can't do what I do if I don't have amazing staff
Yeah.
that can support me who
Right?
do want jobs, right? So this is a real balance. And I think we've there's so many kind of stereotypes and stigmas out there that I think puts like uncomfortableness and sometimes shame
Hmm.
around goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
How if somebody is how does somebody start a conversation when they're talking about manifestation, when they're talking about goals, and we know that if you speak it to be it, right? And we know that you need to put it out there. You need to write it to see it come back. You need to own it, right?
Mhm.
What are some ways that people can actually start comfortably and confidently opening up those dialogues, especially if
Mhm.
they've had to do the pivot, the shift, the change as all business owners, all parents. I
Yeah.
can't even tell you the number of parents who said, "My kid will never have sugar." And by the time they're 4, that kid got an ice cream cone, right?
Yeah.
So, eh,
Yeah.
how do we confidently and comfortably share our goals as our goals shift and change with us through our life?
Yeah. I think that depends on, I guess my question to you would be is like, who are we trying to share with? Are we trying to open up to our community, our loved ones, our friends?
It's a little bit it can be, anything, right? So, if you're a business person,
Yeah.
it may be going out to your community.
Mhm.
If it's somebody who like my sister didn't have her daughter till she was 40, a lot of people are waiting till they're older and they have all these things about parenting. I love the non-parents who parent. Um, and then all of a sudden they have to shift and change because life is real. It could be somebody who starts going down the path for medical
Yeah.
education and then all of a sudden they veer in a different way. How do you talk to your friends or your community, the people who can help aid you in achieving that next level?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have to be, if you start sharing your goals and dreams with anyone, you have to be rock solid in the belief for those goals and dreams. Because if you come in and you're telling, whether it's your parents, your family, you're jumping on social media and you're like, "Yeah, guys, like, I'm thinking of, changing my business or leaving my job or starting this and pursuing that." And no one sees the vision but you do. But if you share it with people that are not supportive of you, don't understand it, don't get it, haven't experienced it themselves, the first thing that they're going to do is either be like, "What? You're crazy. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense. Why would you leave your job? Why would you change this good business that you have?" No, 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 no. Right? They're going to just already jump on you in that sense when you're already in a very vulnerable kind of position yourself if you're making it this big lifestyle change and choice. So for me, anytime that I made a pivot, because I've made probably about 4 or 5 major pivots throughout my 10-year career as an entrepreneur in business. The first one was even telling my parents that I wasn't going to go to med school, which was the hardest thing I've probably ever done in my life to that point, because I'm a first generation immigrant. For us, it was basically, you're going to med school, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be something super prestigious. So I, at that point, was even too afraid to even tell them. I wrote them a letter because I was away at college and I couldn't even face their faces when, I had shared this information that I'm not going to go. But even throughout any of my other pivots, I feel like I never even shared stuff with other people or my community or publicly until I had some sort of plan rolling and in place. Because as you are figuring out those new pieces and those new things to what you were going to change and do, like, it's very uncomfortable, right? And with our subconscious mind and our egos, right? Like, they just want you to be comfortable. They want you to stay in that job that you hate. They want you to stay with that business that's making, thousands of dollars a month, maybe, or what have you. Right. So when you start making these shifts in this uncomfortable zone, if you share it with people that you don't know are going to support you, don't share it, because guess what? They're going to scare you back into your shell. But if you have a group of people, that you can kind of turn to and be like, and actually support you, or mentors or anything like that, go for it and share it. But for me, I never shared anything publicly or even really with friends until I kind of had things lined up and figured out. And I already was like moving in that direction because I had to make that choice. And I didn't want anyone else's opinion because I already kind of learned this just from self development and stuff. It's like only you can make that decision, and other people could potentially hold you back because of their own fears and judgment.
And there was a recent study that I want to say it came out of Penn State. So people under 35 will have an average of 12 careers. We're not talking 12 jobs, folks. We're talking 12 careers in their lifetime based on the current trajectory of lifespan for 35 and under due to med tech and such. So you will probably work until you're 80, right? Because we're learning more and more that as you're doing things that you love and enjoy, retirement is kind of aligned with the old industrial world, the industrial revolution. It's not actually about work,
Hmm.
right? Because I can't tell you the number of people that say they're retired and they're still putting 20 hours a week into nonprofits.
Yeah.
Right? So what if that is what always aligned with you and you just did it 20 years earlier, right? So yeah, and they say every 2.8 years you're pivoting, shifting, moving. And I totally believe that.
Hmm.
Let's talk about resilience. And you can take this either way. People do both ways in this question. Um, but your story of resilience, that we wouldn't be having this conversation if not for a moment that you had to push through, and how did you push through? And this can be a personal or it can be professional.
Yeah, resilience for me was probably when I hit my personal rock bottom in my mid 20s. So, how I pushed through that. So, I'll kind of share a quick version of the story. But when I was in my 20s, kind of at the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, like I mentioned, I was in network marketing for a little bit. That was kind of like the first taste of it. I was modeling, I was acting, I was traveling the country, doing really well for myself financially, all amongst people that had corporate jobs. Like all of my friends had corporate jobs. I also lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, which, if you're not familiar with that city, I lived in Old Town. So that's kind of like a quote unquote, like very, very miniature Vegas. Like the whole scene there is just partying, nightclubs, bars, pool parties, pretty much year round. And a lot of events always are going on in town. So my lifestyle back then, I made really good money. I worked really hard. I hustled a lot, but I also partied really hard on the weekends because, I was in my mid early 20s. Like that was kind of the thing to do. I always knew I was meant to do more, but in like a, in a success checklist, like I kind of had accomplished a lot of what most people desired. Like I had the income, had the luxury car, had the beautiful condo, um, very independent, healthy, beautiful, all these different things, right? And so for me, I kind of just, this is fun, let's just keep doing it. So I ignored a lot of red flags in my life until one night I went out, typical night out with my girlfriends, went to a nightclub, which we would always do. And I ended up getting arrested that night. And that night I was taken to jail. And for me, this was like the most like, I'm the type of person, like growing up, like I was a straight A student, varsity athlete, never broke the rules, never broke the law, like nothing, anything even close like this has happened to me, right? And it was one of the best things that had happened to me because that next day when I got out, I was like, what the F are you doing, Sam? Like, this is not the light. Like, what do you like? Literally, it was just like what are you doing? Like, this is not you. You are not the type of girl that this happens to. Like, things need to change. You need to, you know, change your life because keep doing this and it's just going to get worse, basically. So from there, that's when I started Googling like how to change your life, basically. And like The Secret popped up, that movie. And that was my first taste of learning about this concept of like, we are the creators of our reality. And I'm like, what? Like I was just like, eyes to the screen watching this movie, just taking everything in, just so excited. Like I just found the solution to my life problems. And from there, that's when I got super obsessed with I started journaling, writing down the goals, writing down the vision boards and all of that. But the resilience through that is that moment, because I had a choice to make, that next day. I felt so ashamed. My family was so ashamed of me. None of my friends that night even knew that had happened to me, because I didn't tell anyone. I was like, I felt like my life was over. No one was ever going to work with me again. Like, truly, like, it was just like, looking back at it, I like laugh at it now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, like, that's what I thought. That's what I thought happens to people that get arrested. Right. And the resilience through that is, instead of letting it, you know, get me down, and I went the opposite direction. I went, no, like, this isn't the life. I'm going to take action and change it. And from there, I literally did. Like, within a few months, I had finally moved to my dream city of LA, because I was modeling and acting. And I'm like, if I'm trying to be a professional model and actress, like, I can't live here. I need to go to where Hollywood is, right? Like, I made serious moves, and it changed my life. So it was just like, it's so cool reflecting back on that, because it took me a good 5 or 6 years to even talk about this. Like, I hid it
Yep.
from everyone. So that's kind of my
And that's a big one. That's a big one. And good on you. And here's the truth, folks. Only a very small percentage of society, maybe 3%, tops 5%, are actually born that they are predestined for that negative space, that arrest, right?
Mhm.
All the rest of us, it's a compound of choices and experiences. And and it can happen. It can happen to anyone. The good news is you weren't caught on cops, right? So
Right?
so that's I just that's I'm 54, so everything I did was
Yes,
before the internet.
yes.
And I just sit here, and my husband and I were talking the other night. We were watching, because Cops is free on our Samsung TV, and I don't know, we turned it on, and then there was this woman, and she was losing her marbles, and she was young, and we're sitting there going, I just thank God that I went through my 20s before the internet.
Right.
I can't imagine what would be online out
Mm-mm.
there,
No.
because I was a little bit crazy. I mean, those people in the 80s were like the 70s and 80s, like those kids were crazy,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
even the early 90s, like, I was just graduating college, kind of, even when Instagram started, just with pictures, right? Like, there wasn't reels or videos or stories or anything like
Yep.
that, and Facebook, right? But man, like, I am too so grateful that, dang, we didn't have that stuff to, like, haunt us now.
I know, and it's crazy because my 22-year-old daughter doesn't do social media.
Good
She
for her.
just doesn't do social media. Her and her whole crew, they're like, "Nope, nope, we don't want it." So, I do wanna ask you a question before we move into books. So, I wanna pull apart your journal a little bit. I wanna talk a bit more of what's in it for the user, the person who's adopting the journal. But I do wanna talk on social media real quick. What are some of the ways? So we hear comparison challenges. People, they go down the scroll hole of social media when they should be working on posting, right? And they start getting tied up, and they do this comparison thing, and they start feeling worse about their life because they see the highlights of everybody else's life.
Mhm.
What are some if you could give us one, two, three, whatever strategies or tactics you have around positive engagement through social media that has been successful in your business, that would be a huge help.
Mhm. Yeah, I think for me, one of the things, and this is what I learned even early in my social media career as an influencer and business coach and all of that, is if you're trying to build your brand and company, like, you truly have to put your blinders on. You have to put your blinders on, and that just comes from discipline and not constantly scrolling to see what everybody else is doing. Because the one thing that I learned, especially when even I launched my like, I was just like getting into like social media coaching online like years ago, the one, or even just selling my, sorry, even selling my fitness programs when I was like a fitness influencer and trying to like do that whole thing. I remember I was like looking at other fitness coaches, and I was just kind of like almost like researching and dissecting, like, oh my gosh, they're growing so many followers. It sounds like they're doing so many sales. Like, what are they posting? What are they doing? And I'd go and try and dissect that. But you have no idea what's happening on the back end of things. You have no idea if that content or the way that they write their posts or the how they promote things is even working. Because now as well, like I feel like so many people fabricate so many things when it comes to numbers and dollars and signups and this and that and whatever, right? And I had kind of found myself going down this rabbit hole of like starting to almost like I had my own thing of how I worked out and how I taught and all of that, but you start muddling your own brand because now you're having all these different voices, coming in and ideas coming in that aren't actually yours. But once you put those blinders on and really just like whether it is unfollowing any sort of competition that you think or people that is like, oh gosh, I'm being too influenced by them. And just taking the time to like actually hone in on your message, your brand. I usually use like Word documents and stuff like that to like jot down ideas for different pieces of content or reels and stuff like that. And then I just go into creation mode and I post that because the more often you just keep comparing yourself, like it's not obviously helpful, and there's always going to be someone better than you, smarter than you, prettier than you, wealthier than you, fitter than you.
Your perception of that person is always going to be better than you,
Yes.
but we all live within a world of perception.
Yeah.
So, the only thing is yes, everybody's younger than me now, but aside from that, the reality is that, yeah, that the blinders, I love that. I love that because I just find, and I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I go
Oh,
on
yeah.
and I start going, I should be at this level. I should be at
Right.
that level, right?
Mhm.
And it does. So, and I have to put the blinders on. I have those time limits of when I can be on stuff. I say, no, I think I'll watch cat videos, right? Cause if I have to do a scroll hole, let's do something that's kind of fun, something that will, allow me to step out of that critical space versus compound the criticism.
Yes.
So talk to me about your journal. This is, you know, first of all, I'm going to put up all your socials. Um, I'm just going to put up all your socials here. And so you've grown an audience through your company and what's the size of your Insta audience?
I think for Instagram we're at, gosh, what is it, like 26,000?
Awesome.
We have, and then we have inside our private community about 10,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. It's not an easy feat because that takes a lot of nurturing and a lot of showing up, a
Yeah.
lot of showing up.
Mhm.
So walk me through the book and how you got your journal to this level of awareness globally.
Yeah. So when it started, like the journal was not part of my life plan, business plan, anything like that. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to like really leading into your gut and intuition, when it comes to your life and your purpose and your mission and starting to do things that you want to do versus what society wants you to do. So this was about 3.5 years ago during the pandemic. At the time, I was an online business coach, social media coach, and as we all were in this place of unknown and fear and loss and panic and unknown of what was going to happen, I had a lot of students and clients and community that were also in this feeling this way. And when I just started to sharing, because it reminded me a lot of like my rock bottom that I'd experienced, that I had told you about, with getting arrested and having to start over, change my life, all these different things. And I just started sharing because from that moment, I had adopted this daily routine of journaling, of meditating, of focusing on my goals every single day, even when things were hard and uncomfortable and, frustrating, and doing all of those things. So I just started sharing those tools on social media, on Instagram, for my community, just as a way to like, hey, like, don't give up on your business, don't shut it down, like, don't put off that launch, like, let's get refocused. Like I was like their cheerleader and I was giving them these tools to use with journaling prompts and all these things. And slowly people started like commenting back and messaging me and be like, hey, Sam, like, is there like a PDF download for these journal things and prompts that you're talking about in your videos? And I'm just like, no, just go back to the video and you watch it and save it, right? Like, because I was a business coach, I'm like, I don't have time to like kind of deal with this, like to like set something up. Like I was focused on my cohort at the time, and then I just kept getting these messages, and I'm like, huh, wait a minute. I thought everybody kind of did this stuff because I had made it so normal in my life to be doing this every single day with like the whole routine. And I was actually like manifesting things, things were coming to fruition. And I just became addicted to it because I'm like, this is working, right? So I thought everybody does this stuff. Apparently they don't. And that's when I had that moment of like, wait, I have something here. And it's not going to be a PDF download because at that point, I'd been in the online virtual space for like 10 years. I'm like, honestly, I was at that point of like, I don't want to put out another PDF. It just gets lost in people's inboxes. It's not going to make an impact as a PDF download. And immediately I was like, this has to be a book. Because of course I had my journals that I went out and bought every single, couple months to like write in. I'm like, this is going to be a journal. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be luxurious. And it's going to be a tool that people get excited about when they pick it up. So they will use it. And that was the moment that I decided that was going to be it. I had nothing to do with, I had never done anything in e-commerce. I've never made a physical product. I had not ever like shipped anything, like none of that stuff. Online stuff, fantastic. Website, email funnels, marketing, social. I've done that for so long. I was an expert at that. But everything else terrified me, had no idea what to do it. So I just went to Google, started listening to podcasts on e-commerce and YouTubes and self-educated myself on all the things. And from there, I launched a beta testing group. I asked my community, especially the women that were actually asking me questions about my routine, asked them if they wanted to join me for 30 days in this, like just basically like a beta test group. I gave them a PDF version of journal pages. I'm like, I just want you to test this, check in with me every single Sunday. Let me know how it's going. Like, don't need to pay me. I just want your feedback. Every single woman in that group had incredible, whether it was a transformation, something that had manifested. And I'm talking things from like love to promotions to health stuff. Like it was just crazy. And I'm like, perfect. Like that's all I need to know. We are going into production. So I found a manufacturer, got my first sample of the journal. And then from there, launched it. Still, this whole entire time, no idea what I was really doing, to be honest. Like I was just doing it. And here we are now, 3.5, almost 4 years later, multi-million dollar company. It's just like, oh my God, it's wild. But I just followed that intuition and that gut on it.
Well, and
So,
you followed the cues.
yeah.
You
Well,
had people asking, and
right.
I think we miss that at times. We're so set, "No, I've gotta make this work. I've gotta do this. I gotta do this," and we miss what people are actually asking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
um
I had done that previously with my previous pivots. Like even when I was a model and actress, right? I had companies reaching out to me because they saw my like this was before influencers were a thing. Influencers in UGC didn't exist yet. That word was not even a word yet. But they were reaching out to me saying, "Hey Sam, saw you're doing this product and this product. Can you create marketing videos for us?" And I was getting that so much. I was like, wait, I need to start my own marketing business. I created a whole video studio in my house and was charging different companies to do that. Then influencers became a thing. Then from the social media aspect, people started asking me, how did you grow your social media? How did you get these brand collaborations? I created a social media course, right? And then from there, I had companies reaching out or people reaching out, hey Sam, I'm not an influencer, but I have a business or I want to start a business. Can you help me with that? So then I pivoted to being an online business coach. Like every single point in my career, it was a pivot. And it wasn't because I was like burnt out or wasn't successful. It was just like I literally, I don't know if this is an entrepreneur brain or what, but I literally just follow the cues of like, okay, like what is next? So it kind of makes sense that you said earlier, like people under 35, like they're going to have at least 12 different careers in their lifetime. Because if you are just smart enough to just I'm not saying you're not smart if you don't pivot, but for me in my world, I was literally just following the cues as I was getting an abundance of inquiries on certain things. That's when I'm like, huh, there is something here. Let me lean into that. And for some reason, so far, it's always worked. And now with the journal, it's worked like insanely well. And I don't have another cue coming up. I haven't felt one yet. So we're sticking with this for a while.
For a while. There you go. Can you share with us the best places that people can? I know we have it up on screen, but for those who are just listening, let's if you could go through where they can find you and how they can engage with you.
Yes. So you can find me if you're interested, like my personal Instagram account. That's where I share a lot of day in the life, business behind the scenes, all that sort of stuff. I'm kind of a really fun, almost open book, but I share a lot of stuff on there. So that's Samantha Kozuch on Instagram. For the journal, it's manuscripting.com or the Manuscripting Journal on Instagram, but that's all linked to my personal bio. And then even with my own podcast, I dive into all sorts of different types of topics, and that's Money, Mindset, and Manicures podcast.
Excellent, excellent. New podcast to listen to. That's even better. So I always like to close the show out with a quote, and because I sometimes we need to borrow
Mhm.
from somebody else when we're having a day that is not quite our best day. So can you share your quote with us and why this quote is important?
Yes. So my quote to share with you and your community, and it's going to be, and probably I think it's a little different from what we talked about on the call because
Okay.
of the direction of where we've gone. But my quote is a personal one. Manifesting is a lifestyle.
I agree. Manifesting, and I'm going to spell this wrong, is a lifestyle. We're going to put this up on the screen. I want everybody to think about this. Why is that important to you?
This is important to me because it's not something that you can just do for an hour or a minute or in January when you're setting your New Year's resolutions. Like manifesting is a lifestyle. It's because we are manifesting our reality every second of the day. And whenever you start something new, right, no matter what you learn, what you do, it's always hard. It's always kind of difficult. There's always stickiness to it, right? Same thing goes for wanting to change your life. And nothing is going to happen overnight or immediately. There are so many things, so many pieces of the puzzle have to be put into place in order for you to be able to reach that goal, to manifest that thing to fruition. So I love always reminding people like manifesting is a lifestyle because it's not something you can just do for a day or a season. Like it truly is. If you want your life to continue getting better and better and better, like you have to be living in that lifestyle and in that mindset.
And it really is the mindset, that gratitude, focusing on your goals and moving forward and having pride within your goals and taking action, even if it's a little action, even if it's only one forkful, folks. You gotta keep moving, because if you're not moving, you're not doing.
Yes. Hmm.
You're not moving, you're not doing. You know what, Samantha? You are an absolute rock star. And I have to say, I love like your blue eyes and the red hair. I have two blue-eyed, red-haired boys. So and, I just you have such a great energy to you. And any closing words you'd like to share?
No, I think that was kind of my wrap up with that quote is like you are the creator of, of your reality. And if there's something within you, especially if it's like that deep inner knowing, even that inkling about something that you want to change or go do with your life, like please go take action on it because that thought, that idea, it came to you specifically for a reason. And that reason is to go execute on it. Otherwise, you never would have received that information.
Alrighty, I cannot top that. That is amazing. So, Samantha, again, thank you for joining us. And remember, you're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose, and you are worth it. So, you know what? Be good to yourself. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that